Golden Globes signal a shifting awards landscape. The Golden Globe Awards returned this year with a clear message. The film and television industries are in the midst of a creative recalibration. Across both cinematic and small-screen categories, this year's winners reflected a blend of prestige storytelling, audience-driven successes, and performances that pushed beyond traditional genre boundaries. Film, prestige meets popular appeal. In the motion picture categories, the Globes once again demonstrated their reputation for embracing ambitious, auteur-driven films while still acknowledging mainstream impact. The top honors went to films that combined technical excellence with emotionally resonant narratives, signaling strong momentum heading into the rest of the awards season. Several of the night's biggest film winners leaned heavily on character-driven storytelling. Leading and supporting acting, awards recognized performances defined by psychological complexity rather than spectacle, reinforcing the industry's ongoing emphasis on nuanced portrayals over conventional star power alone. Notably, the Globes' traditional separation of drama and musical or comedy categories highlighted the increasing genre fluidity in contemporary cinema. Films that blurred tonal lines, balancing humor, social commentary, and drama, performed especially well, suggesting voters are rewarding risk-taking over formula. From a broader industry perspective, the film winners underscored the continued strength of director-led projects backed by major studios and specialty divisions alike. These results position several films as frontrunners not only for future awards, but also for long-term cultural relevance. Television, streaming dominance continues. On the television side, streaming platforms once again proved their dominance. The majority of major awards went to series produced for digital-first distribution, reflecting how decisively audience habits and industry investment have shifted away from traditional broadcast models. Drama categories favored tightly constructed, limited-run series that combined cinematic production values with socially relevant themes. These shows capitalized on the format's ability to deliver concentrated storytelling while attracting top-tier acting talent, a trend that has reshaped television over the past decade. Comedy awards, meanwhile, recognized series that moved beyond laugh-driven premises toward more introspective and character-focused narratives. Many of the winning comedies balanced humor with commentary on identity, relationships, and modern work culture, reflecting evolving audience expectations for the genre. Acting wins across television categories highlighted the growing parity between film and television performances. Increasingly, television roles are no longer seen as secondary to film. Instead, they offer actors creative freedom, narrative depth, and sustained character development that rival or surpass cinematic opportunities. Industry trends reflected in the winners. Beyond individual trophies, this year's Golden Globes revealed several broader trends shaping the entertainment industry. Global storytelling influence. International perspectives and cross-cultural narratives featured prominently among winners, reinforcing Hollywood's expanding global outlook. Genre hybridity. Projects that defied easy categorization, blending drama, comedy, music, and social realism, were particularly successful. Platform-driven prestige. Streaming services continue to drive awards recognition by pairing high budgets with creative autonomy. Performance-first recognition. Acting categories favored emotional authenticity and transformation over celebrity-driven recognition. These patterns suggest that awards bodies are increasingly aligned with evolving audience tastes, particularly those shaped by streaming access and global content exposure. Looking ahead to the awards season. As one of the first major ceremonies of the year, the Golden Globes often function as a bellwether rather than a predictor. Still, the winners will undoubtedly influence campaign narratives for upcoming awards, including Guild Honors and the Academy Awards. Studios and platforms with multiple wins now gain valuable momentum, while individual performances recognized at the Globes are likely to remain central to awards season conversations. At the same time, the Globes, Unique voting body means surprises remain possible as other organizations weigh in. Ultimately, this year's Golden Globes highlighted an industry in transition, one that continues to balance prestige, popularity, and innovation. Whether on the big screen or the small one, the winners collectively reflected a creative ecosystem that is broader, more inclusive, and more. For much of their history, the Golden Globe Awards functioned as Hollywood's most convivial mirror, part party, part predictor, rarely a final word. This year's ceremony, however, felt less like a reflection of past formulas and more like a snapshot of an industry quietly reworking its own definition of prestige. Across film and television categories, the winners suggested a recalibration underway in how artistic value is recognized, produced, and consumed. The dominant through line was not a single genre, studio, or star, but rather a growing comfort with ambiguity. Between comedy and drama, cinema and television, global and domestic storytelling. Prestige without the old hierarchies. Historically, prestige in Hollywood followed a familiar architecture. Films arrived with theatrical gravity, television aspired upward, and comedy remained cordoned off from seriousness. This year's Golden Globe winners disrupted that hierarchy. Several of the most honored projects resisted easy classification. They were emotionally weighty without solemnity, humorous without lightness, and often structured in ways that defied traditional narrative packing. The Globes, long-standing division between drama and musical or comedy categories, once a convenient sorting mechanism, now feels increasingly out of step with the work itself. The winners made clear that the industry's most admired storytelling is no longer interested in fitting cleanly into those boxes. What emerged instead was a vision of prestige rooted in tone and intention rather than format. Seriousness, it seems, is no longer defined by restraint alone, and comedy is no longer dismissed as a lesser artistic form. Television's cinematic turn becomes the norm. If there was any remaining doubt about television's parity with film, this year's Globes offered little room for it. The most celebrated television winners bore the hallmarks once associated almost exclusively with cinema: deliberate visual language, thematic density, and performances built on interiority rather than exposition. Limited series and streaming-first dramas continued to dominate, reinforcing the idea that compression, not longevity, is now the preferred mode of prestige television. These shows ask for commitment, but not endurance, and they reward viewers with narrative completeness rather than endless extension. Comedy, too, reflected this shift. The winning series often leaned toward introspection, discomfort, and social observation rather than punchline-driven structures. Laughter in these works functioned less as release than as recognition of shared anxieties, contradictions, and cultural pressures. Acting as the central currency. Perhaps the clearest signal of change came in the acting categories. Performances that received recognition were notable for their inwardness. Transformation, when it occurred, was psychological rather than cosmetic. The emphasis was not on spectacle, but on restraint, contradiction, and emotional precision. This preference aligns with an industry that increasingly values performance as the primary conduit of meaning. In an era when audiences can access technically accomplished work from anywhere in the world, acting remains one of the few elements that resists replication. The Globes, acting winners, suggested a renewed belief that prestige is earned not through scale, but through specificity. A quietly global awards season. Another subtle but significant shift was the normalization of global influence. International voices and cross-cultural narratives were not framed as novelties or exceptions. They were simply present. The absence of explanatory framing signaled an industry that no longer feels the need to justify global storytelling as an expansion. It now reads as baseline. This reflects broader changes in viewing habits, shaped by streaming platforms that erase geographic boundaries and algorithmically reward curiosity. The Globes, often accused of being insular, appeared this year to be responding, if belatedly, to that reality. What the Golden Globes now represent. The Golden Globes have long occupied an uneasy place in the awards ecosystem, influential but imperfect, glamorous but unserious. This year's ceremony did not resolve those contradictions. Instead, it revealed something more interesting. The winners suggested an industry less concerned with consensus and more willing to reward work that sits in tension, with genre, with audience comfort, and with inherited definitions of quality. Prestige, as reflected by this year's Globes, is no longer about authority or scale. It is about control, perspective, and emotional honesty. Whether this recalibrated vision holds through the rest of awards season remains to be seen. But for one night, at least, the Golden Globes offered a compelling portrait of an industry learning to recognize itself anew.
Around the world, there are over 140 million orphans who have lost one or both parents. These vulnerable children often face immense challenges: poverty, malnutrition, lack of education, and abuse. Without someone to protect them, many end up living on the streets, exploited as child laborers, or worse. The suffering faced by orphan children is heartbreaking. But we can't turn a blind eye. Every child deserves safety, nourishment, and care. That's why the Orphan Kids Help Foundation exists. Presently, we support 15 orphanages in developing nations in Africa, providing food, shelter, healthcare, and education to over 5,000 children in need. Our mission is to enable orphans to sustain their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. We make education a priority, with classes in reading, writing, math, and life skills. Our mentors provide the love and support these children have missed for so long that we can't do this alone. We rely on donations from people like you to fund our orphanages. Your contribution helps provide food, medicine, books, and school supplies to children in need. Every dollar makes a difference in a young life. Please consider sponsoring an orphan child today. Together, we can show orphan kids they are not forgotten. We can give them the nurturing environment where they can learn, grow, and heal from their past traumas. With your support, we can unlock the potential in every child. Please donate now to change a child's future.